roughly 70% of my income so far, like just through January to August, is digital products. I want to validate that people will actually pay money for this before I go to the effort of pushing it or marketing it or whatever. And people bought. So then after 6-ish months, I was like, okay, this is worth it. I will create a sales page for this. And it just kind of spiraled from there. So if your client says, wow, this onboarding experience is super streamlined, and take note of that. Write it down, because maybe something of that is templatable that you could sell to other designers. Or maybe they're super appreciative of the launch graphics you send them, which is just a Canva template, and you could sell that.
Ever wonder if you have to choose between digital products or one-on-one services to succeed? Well, my past Square Secrets business student and now course co-coach does both and more. Katelyn started focusing on her web design career full-time in 2020, and within just 6 months was making the same income she'd earned at her old 9-to-5. When we last chatted on my channel 2 years ago, she was fully booked for her VIP days at a rate of $1,000 per day, embracing her love for problem solving and leaning into her unique personality-based niche. These days, Katelyn's been making strides with digital products in a big way, but that's just the beginning. She's also introduced a membership program and one-on-one coaching to her offerings, so I knew it was time for a proper catch-up. I hope you enjoy this conversation with my dear friend and course co-coach, Katelyn. Okay, Katelyn, last time that we caught up, you were really enjoying the VIP day format, and you were charging like $1,200, I think, a day. Is that still the case? And can you kind of give me an update, like what services are you offering? What's sort of the split of like which ones you do, and how much are you charging for the VIP days now?
$1,750.
Good.
Yeah, it's gone up twice since then. So not a huge jump. But custom websites are $5,000 to $11,000 now. I don't remember what they were at the time we last chatted, but it was lower than that. So those have gone up too. My service lineup is interesting. So I don't know if you're going to talk about that later, but it's not an expected percentage.
Give me the Spark Notes version of all of them.
So digital products, services, like one-on-one kind of hourly kind of sessions. Yeah, it's only about 4, but it's just the percentage of work in each category is unexpected.
And are you managing that as one person now, or do you have anyone helping you, or that's a lot of things?
I am back to one person, yeah. So my assistant had a life change, and I had to it was sad, but I had to say goodbye. So hopefully she'll be back when she gets back up to normal, but yeah, I'm back to solopreneur. That's impressive that you're doing all those things. Okay, yeah, so we have VIP days, custom web design services, a membership, digital products, and one-to-one calls, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, love. Interesting. Can you tell me more about the products, tell me more about the membership. What made you want to get into that, and how has it been doing that in addition to the like services?
Incredible. A lot easier than I thought it would be.
Good. And
really, really fun, because it's been kind of a smallish group. There's about 18 women in it. Maybe that includes myself. So it's small enough for me to remember names and like what's going on in their lives. And when we hop on calls, we have great discussions. So that's been awesome. The digital products sort of stemmed out of like, I created all these systems and these softwares, and whenever I would do a Loom video of like, well, you could just do XYZ in this software, and they'd be like, oh my God, how did you set that up? And so I was like, oh, I guess I could just do this as a template and somebody else could edit or customize. So that's kind of where that started. So I have one for client portals in Notion, and I have another one for content guides. So not the whole portal, just the content guides that I send my clients, but for like DIY people. And then I also have pricing calculator, which is just a Google sheet. And I have a SQUARESPACE template, which is technically blank. It is basically the settings and like the structure for starting a new website for a client, but with no design content in it. So it looks blank, but it's not blank.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What's the price point on the template specifically? I'm curious.
The Squarespace template is $125. The client portal is $197. The price calculator is $27, I think. So
Cool.
There's a pretty big range.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, okay. And it's also fantastic that, like, these were created truly out of, like, you made a video, someone was like, how do I do that? And then
Yes.
I'll just sell you the, like, done thing instead of you having to make that yourself. It's awesome. Love that.
Yeah.
Tell me about the transition. I think that's something which people are really nervous about, is the whole, like, I'm doing client services. How do I also, like, make successful digital products while doing one-to-one services? What did you do to, like, set yourself up for this to be successful, and, like, how did you manage that while you're also doing your client services?
I have to say I kind of started it by accident. I was really, 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 really busy with client work in 2022, less busy in 2023, partly because I took off a couple of months to be like, okay, this client portal thing is really interesting to a lot of people. I keep getting or hearing the same comment. I'm going to take off some time. So I blocked out some time in my calendar to literally sit down and create a version that is customizable for other people that I could copy and send to other people. So I took time out of my client schedule to do that. After that, I just kind of threw it up on my website in a Squarespace shop, like didn't even do a sales page for it because I was like, I want to validate that people will actually pay money for this before I go to the effort of pushing it or marketing it or whatever. And people bought. So then after 6-ish months, I was like, okay, this is worth it. I will create a sales page for this. And it just kind of spiraled from there. Last year was sort of the interim year where I was doing more of both. And this year, it's actually more digital products than client work.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about, are all the digital products, like, equally popular, and, like, are they just being purchased randomly, or are you running, like, sales for them, or how is that working?
They do seem a bit random, but I do push in my blog posts and on the YouTube videos that are related content, which I do a lot of. Now I do a lot of DIY or, like, web designer focused content. I do often say, like, if you don't want to build this yourself, I literally have it available for you. And so I point people back to it that way. But yeah, it is a bit random. I don't do any ads. I don't do any social media marketing to it. It really is just like I have a sidebar. I mention related stuff in my blog. I also have a call to action at the bottom. So I'll mention it there and it sends them to the shop. Sometimes I'll do like a pop-up on my website. So like my own ad. And that works pretty well. But yeah, no, I'm not really, like, there's no ad campaign, no official, highly intentional strategy. It just sort of comes in when it comes in. I did do a birthday sale last month, though, and that was surprising. Yeah.
Surprising, good way, bad way?
It was a good surprising. It was quiet for a couple of weeks, because I did it over the whole month of July, because that was my 4th business anniversary. And so I was like, birthday sale, I'm going to mark everything down 40%. And so for the first couple of weeks, it was quiet, but I was like, they're probably just waiting till the last minute because that's what people do. And then I turned on the countdown timer, and then sales started coming in at the end of the month.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you going to change anything about your sales in future with that lesson, or?
Not as long. And start a countdown timer faster.
Yeah, honestly, you give people a month to make a decision, they take an entire friggin' month to make a decision, so you just have to, like, know that this, like, giant thing is happening in the background and be stressing about it for a month, so yeah.
Yeah, and my products aren't that expensive either, so it's not like people have to save up $1,000+ to go purchase the client portal template, so it can be a little more last minute.
Yeah. So I think also what's interesting about what you've created there is these are not, I think when people think about, like, passive income as a website designer, they think, like, build Squarespace templates and everything. And I mean, one thing is a Squarespace template, but it's not like your typical Squarespace template. As you said, it's like basically a blank design, but it's like your jumping off point that you use for every client project. So tell me about, if someone's trying to think about, how do I create a product that is, like, wanted, or, like, come up with an idea which is different than the idea that everyone is doing, like, what would you advise?
I would sit down with a piece of paper or a blank document and start writing down all of the things that people compliment you on when you deliver your services. So if your client says, wow, this onboarding experience is super streamlined and clean and clear, and I understand like at every, like, take note of that. Write it down, because maybe something of that is templatable that you could sell to other designers. Or maybe they're super appreciative of the launch graphics you send them, which is just a Canva template, and you could sell that. There's all kinds of ideas. So I think just listening to what other people tell you that you're good at and actually hearing it, like just paying attention to what other people say you're good at, and then maybe thinking about how you could productize that offer for other people. And if it's related to some sort of like organization, process, design, then it's going to be pretty easy to put that together and slap a price tag on it.
Yeah, I think one thing which I try to remind myself is like to not get married to my own ideas. Like I have ideas of things I want to create, but then I'm like, no, you need to survey and you need to talk to people and you need to have conversations. And I don't want to lead them to the thing. Like we're actually putting together a survey right now, and I'm like, how do I find out if this thing which I want to do is wanted without, like, I don't want to lead them to that choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think one of the because I deal with that too, and I have lots of ideas and I could templatize lots of things, but ultimately I'm not always sure if that's something that people want, something people will pay for. And so you can make a list of that stuff, but the most important thing I found was to listen to what other people are asking for from you, kind of like you did with Square Secrets Business. You did Square Secrets first, and then the business course was like, oh, people want to know this, so you know they'll pay money for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and people might not specifically say like, I will pay you money for this thing, but like you hear it enough. And so when you say like listen to what people are saying, are you talking about like when you're talking to clients, or are you doing surveys, or is it YouTube comments, or like what is the way that you're listening to what people want, if that makes sense?
It's typically in conversations, like actual natural conversations with people. Like I've had 2 big conversations with past clients specifically where they made a point to email me and say, I'm so impressed with this process. Like everything has been easy. I know exactly what to do and when. I don't have to second guess anything. Chef's kiss was literally one of the things that they said. Like, so when they tell you something like that, you need to make a note and you're like, okay, I'm doing this right. And when you start to hear something like that more often, then that could potentially be something that you could templatize and offer to other people, because it's clearly working for a number of people. And if it's templatizable, then that's something that obviously people like. So, and then the other part was like not just clients, but like Facebook comments and a few of the groups that I'm in where people would say like Basecamp is too expensive. Like, how do I make a client portal? I don't like Dubsato's portal, or Asana confuses my clients, or whatever the complaint is. And then I would pipe in with like, Notion is cheap and inexpensive and pretty customizable. You could make a portal out of that. And they're like, huh? So of course I do a Loom video and I talk too long. And so they get a 10-minute video of like what my portal looks like. And they're like, holy shit, that's amazing. So after hearing that 20,000 times, it was like, oh, okay, nobody else really has anything like this. I could just offer my copy of it.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Yeah, and that's also a good example is like you can also find, even if you don't have your own community yet, which we'll speak about that, or your own audience, like, yeah, you can go into other, like you can be noticing in Facebook groups, people are complaining about XYZ is too expensive or whatever. And so it's interesting how just trying to be helpful leads to great business choices and like really great successful products. Okay, talk to me about, so you took Square Secrets and Square Secrets Business. I think a lot of people, well, I guess I don't know who's watching this, but a lot of people know that, who have followed the business, because you're always like, Katelyn is my co-coach inside of the course now. But anyways, so you also took my Audience Academy course. Can you tell me what led you to the decision of taking that one?
I think I took it in 2021, maybe. And that was the first year we had moved to a new state. It moved like literally across the country, and I was like, I'm not sure I want to spend all of my time in this new place with all these new things that I could be doing outside, walking, whatever. I just felt like I really like to teach, and I had slowly learned that through the course of blogging and basically teaching through that. And so I was like, I would like to figure out how I can productize something. So digital products are in my future. But then I realized when you started marketing the course, I was like, I don't have anybody to sell it to. My list is too small for that. So I need to figure out how to grow my list so I can get to that point. So that's why I took it. It was a big like stepping stone.
Good. And then tell me about what is your traffic and audience like? Did it make an impact on having people following you, or did it work to sell digital products once you had the audience? Tell me about that.
Yeah, it had to have doubled. I think when I took that course, my list size was maybe a quarter of what it is now. And that's just going off memory. But I mean, minimum, it was less than half of what it is now. So yeah, it's been absolutely huge. And I don't have a huge email list either. It works for me and it's growing all the time, but it's not like I have tens of thousands of people on my email list that I'm doing all this with.
That makes sense. Yeah. And can you tell me about, blogging, blog traffic, and like how you managed to do that while doing services as well?
It wasn't easy. We have talked about this before in the course with the students, but like taking time to do a video and a blog post and a podcast or like any other different mediums at the same time requires a lot of time. Doing it the same week it publishes, not great, kind of stressful. I was super great at procrastinating that though, and not having enough time to sit down and plan ahead what my topics were going to be. And so it would be like Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'd be like, I need to get out a blog post this week. So some weeks I missed, but I just kind of realized that over time, like, it is what it is. I will do my best, and eventually I will get better at this. And your course helped kind of get the process or like the concepts and the ideas like more locked down. And so I started to understand what was more important, what was not as important. When I incorporated YouTube, that wasn't until like 6 or 7 years into my business, so quite a long time after. And I was really good at blogging by that point. And so that felt like a natural time to add it in. And that was really a kind of a Kickstarter. I was surprised how well that worked for my business with so few subscribers.
Okay, wait, tell me about that. Yeah. So I think that's something which people don't realize is, tell me about like effect of, let's say, YouTube channel or blog posts or whatever on like bookings and product sales.
I had a YouTube channel. I don't remember why or when I created it. I want to say it was like 2015 or 16 when I first created my account with YouTube. So over that time until 2022, I collected something like 30 some odd subscribers. When I first started publishing videos, I was in like a series, sort of. I was publishing one a week, I think, for like 6-ish weeks. And that kind of kickstarted it. I got my first $6,000 client from my YouTube channel when I had under 500 subscribers.
Good.
So it works, and it works quite well and faster than you think.
That's good. That's so good.
Yeah.
And do you know what percentage of your clients are coming through, I don't know, the blog, the YouTube? Is there anything else that you're doing? Those are the two main things, right?
Yep, just blog and YouTube.
Okay.
I do ask specifically, most people, blog is still my biggest one, probably 70 to 80%. YouTube is a growing percentage, but that's definitely the second biggest one. And then everything else is so small that it doesn't even register on the graphs, like Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever.
Interesting. Yeah. Another thing which web designers often think is like, if I post on a blog, why are they going to hire me?
Yeah, it's just, I get this question a lot too, actually. One of my members specifically said, like, I don't understand why all these designers are all publishing DIY content. Like, why are we teaching people how to do our jobs? Because it's kind of like if you are learning web design from all of these people, or a large portion of these people, 20 people even, it's kind of like taking one puzzle piece from 20 different boxes and trying to put together something that fits or looks like a puzzle. It's not going to look like anything. You're going to be lucky if any of those pieces fit together. And that's kind of the argument there, is like, you can learn from the vast majority of web designers you want. Everybody's going to teach it a little bit differently. Everybody's going to have slightly different best practices. People in different industries or specializing in different industries are going to have a different approach. So you're really getting like different kind of siloed content from silos, but you're trying to combine them into one thing. It's just not going to make a whole lot of sense. So eventually, if you have a smarter audience, they're going to kind of narrow that list down. And they're going to be like, okay, my go-to for Squarespace is going to be Paige Brunton, Katelyn Deacle, whatever. And over time, they decide they want to go further with you or learn more from you in some way or the other. Sometimes that's hiring you because they're like, I've spent hours on this. I'm not any further than I was before. It looks ugly. I'm not happy with it. And they'll hire you for some fix or whatever. Or if you eventually start selling products, they'll buy things from you that help them get further in their journey. It's just what I've found. It seems illogical, but it works.
Yeah, totally. Okay, you mentioned that digital products seems to be now a bigger percentage of your income. Can you talk about, if you had to divide it into like a pie chart, what are the percentages of the different pie slices, let's say?
Yeah, so I looked this up because I knew I wouldn't remember. So it's drastically different this year than it has been for the other 8 years. So like 2024 has been the first year it's been like this. Roughly 70% of my income so far, like just through January to August, is digital products.
That's amazing.
15% is affiliate sales, like just all the various affiliate programs I'm in Termageddon, like all of the tools that I use. 10% is other services. That's like design days, one-on-one sessions, white labeled work for other designers, because I do some of that too. And then the last 5% is custom projects right now.
That is so crazy. That's so crazy. Yeah. Also, because your custom services are not necessarily cheap. Again, they're between like $5,000 to $11,000 or whatever. So that is bananas.
Yeah.
I did not expect that.
I didn't either. So a couple of weeks ago, I was catching up on with my bookkeeper, because we do like quarterly stuff. And I was in there and I just happened to open not just the profit and loss statement, but like the month over month statement. And I was like, oh my God, like every month since the last client project I've had has been double or triple that month when I took those payments from the client project.
So good.
So good. Yeah. It's been wild.
Someone else wants to do that, what would you advise them to do? Like if some web designer's like, awesome, Katelyn, I want 5% from custom and I want 70 from digital, like, what would you say they should do?
Honestly, like, okay, recovering perfectionist here. I do not like to do things messy. I like a lot of detail, but I'm telling you right now, that is not going to help you in this journey. Taking messy action, because doing something, even if you do it poorly, still gives you some sort of lesson to do it better the next time you try it. And so honestly, like, just doing it and not waiting for it to become something perfect, or to have all your ducks in a row, or to get the perfect software, or whatever it is you're waiting on, like, most of that's actually fear. And yeah, it's a mindset issue. So I would say just like, if that's something that you want to do, just try it. Don't spend lots of time on it. Kind of like I did with the templates when I first introduced them. I just threw up a shop as a digital download, no sales page. Was like, let's just see if people will buy it and validate it. Kind of messy. You can make it better over time.
That's really good. In terms of, are you, I don't want to say pushing things, but like, are you marketing, like say in your like weekly emails or whatever, are you like pushing certain things more than others, and you think that's also a factor, or? Not
really. I've adopted a new email strategy, or a new like layout in my emails this year. So I have like, I don't know, a brief thing at the top about something I'm actively doing behind the scenes in my business, a blurb about the blog, and then underneath that, what I'm doing next, or what's coming up next in the pipeline for the blog. At the bottom, I have worth sharing 3 things. It's always 3 different things, because I'm, my ears to the wind, or whatever the saying is. It's like I'm hearing interesting things all the time, and I have no place to put these things, nowhere to share them. So sometimes it's mine, like, hey, we're having a 4th birthday sale. You can get 40% off all my templates through the end of July. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's Paige's course is launching in October, or whatever. Maybe it's, I found this new software and it's only $100 and it's been a game changer for video editing or like whatever. So sometimes it is in my emails and sometimes it's not.
Interesting. Cool beans. Well, I'm so stoked for you. That's awesome. Okay, tell me what life is like when 70% of your income comes from digital products versus like client services, like it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it feels a lot more flexible. It's a lot less stressful. Not that I ever was particularly stressed with my clients because I've been really lucky to have mostly phenomenal people that I've worked with, but like deadlines, so deadline related things. And I also, to be fair, work on pretty complex websites when I do custom projects, and they tend to be 20 plus pages with like integrations and all these other things. So that is a lot to fit into 2 weeks. And it is a lot less stressful not having to worry so much about getting all that done in time. Yeah, and in addition to my admin stuff, so I just have a lot more time to be creative for myself, which is nice. And I can kind of get up when I want and sit down to work when I want. I have time to work out in the mornings now, and I haven't had time to do that in ages. Yeah, I get to go for a walk with Luna when it's nice outside, so it just feels a lot more like calm and joyful, I think.
I love that. That's so fabulous. Look at you living your best life.
Messily, but yes.
Exactly, in a non-perfect way. You also, as I mentioned quickly, you are the co-coach on our monthly Q&A calls inside of my Square Secrets business course. Can you tell me, you've been doing it with me for a while now, so like what are you noticing that the biggest challenges that students face?
Yeah, I feel like they're mostly mindset issues, things that are holding them back, like fear of doing the wrong thing, fear of not picking the right niche, or like not doing the right marketing platform, or fear that their lack of clients is because they've focused on Squarespace only, and do I also need to show it, or it's all mindset, it's all fear-based, I think. That's probably an oversimplification, but yeah, scarcity versus abundance. Imposter syndrome is a big one that I kind of hear a fair bit. Marketing issues, like I hate marketing or I'm bad at marketing. You're never going to be good at it if you think about it that way. Making things more complicated than they need to be. One of the favorite types of conversations we hear is when you're like, if you don't like it, don't do it. Or do it differently. Like find a way that brings you joy. So those are some of my favorites. I've got more, I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel like Katelyn and I are like mindset hype girls, or I don't know, like something.
You can do it.
Yeah, but with practical advice, not just yeah. No, it's true. Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of that it's like people standing in their own way because of fear, or like making decisions from a not great place, which we need to like course correct them to the right way. So
yeah, I think it's easy to do because we're probably doing this by ourselves, home alone. Like we don't have, people like literally physically in our life to be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this in my business. What do you think about that? And they can give you an answer, but they're not doing it. So they don't know how right their opinion is. Yeah. And so it's easy to fall down that rabbit hole and be like, oh, but I don't do wireframes. Oh, but I don't have this other software.
Yeah, exactly. And also when you're talking to a person who doesn't know anything and you're like, oh, but I feel like I couldn't charge $5,000 because that's a lot. And they're like, yeah, $5,000 is a lot. Whereas we'd be like, like we have a different perspective because we've been in it. Yeah. For a while.
Yeah. I know one of the first people I ever did a brand refresh for, she already had a website. She was on Squarespace, but she just needed to tweak like color palettes and change out fonts or something on her website. I charged her $800 for like a couple hours of work. I was so excited about it because it was kind of a VIP day, but before I even knew that was a thing. And I remember there were people in my like actual life who were like, I can't believe someone would pay you $800 for like a couple hours of work, because we're all making like $15, $20, $30 an hour in our day jobs.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting like an $800 an hour half day.
Pretty good half day.
Yeah, so the people's opinions are not always super helpful.
Yeah. The other thing, which I'm curious, again, having seen all of these like student mindset issues that we solve every month, what are the things that you wish people knew or would believe in order to like help them run their business more successfully? Or what were some of the things that you had to like change your belief on in order to be more successful?
I found that I was telling the people in my real life that like I'm going to take this course because a repeating theme became I don't know enough. This is my form of imposter syndrome. Whenever I felt like I wasn't good enough, I found a course to learn a thing that would make me feel like I could be an expert in the thing, which is valid, but to a point. Once you've taken like 40 different courses or whatever the total is, there is a point at which you do know enough because you really don't have to know that much more than the people you're serving. And I think that was a huge aha moment for me when I realized I don't have to be Elon Musk level like over, you know what I mean? Like I don't need to be a rocket scientist in order to design Squarespace websites for people. I just need to know more than the people who are asking me to do it for them.
And those skills build over time. And like, that's the thing is like people, like you charge less for your earlier websites because you will learn more things over time. But it's like, it's okay to start and to like build a more basic website or not the most perfect or beautiful thing in the world or whatever. And that's fine because you're also charging less for it versus however many years from now when you're charging 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever, like, or like the experts who you're comparing yourself to, if you go look and you see like, oh, so-and-so is charging, whatever, 20 grand for a website. And you're like, I shouldn't do this because my websites aren't as good. It's like, yeah, you're also not charging 20 grand for a website. So it's also okay if your websites are not as good. So yeah.
I agree. That was, I mean, I think I started at maybe $1,200 a website. So huge jump. It took me a number of years to, probably too long to get to where I am now, quite frankly, because with taking all those courses, my skills were going up and up and up, and my prices weren't following that trend of like more experience, more knowledge, and all of that. So yeah. The imposter syndrome thing is huge.
Can you tell me about raising prices over time? How did you decide to do it? And would you do anything differently looking back now?
Yes, I would absolutely do it differently. I'd say on average, they probably didn't change for at least a year in between price hikes, which I know that kind of happens before we even realize it's happened. Like, oh my God, it's already been a year. Right? Yeah, especially if you're doing like full-time job and side hustling and just life moves really fast that way. Then I woke up at one point and I'd taken a number of like higher level courses to build on my foundation skills, and my prices did not reflect that. So I kind of felt like I was at the ceiling. Maybe that was like $2,000 or $3,000, and I felt like, man, that's a lot of money. But also it didn't feel like a lot of money to me. When I would charge it and get the payments, it was like, and if, you're following profit loss, you're technically only taking a percentage of that too on top of it. So when other people told me like, Katelyn, I'm looking at this beautiful website you just did, and I don't think you're charging enough. That was like, oh, okay. So at that point, I had to hike it really high because I'd waited way too long to raise them. But I think more sustainably, it'd be easier to like do $100 or $250 jump every project you get, or like once a quarter or something, and just kind of build into your calendar. Because even if you're not taking more courses, you're taking on more challenging things, or you are introduced to challenges you weren't expecting, and if you solved them, now you have a new skill. So you should charge for the skill.
I think that's great advice. I love that. What did you change about your like audience email blogging processes, or how did you do things differently? Like what changed before and after the course exactly?
I think it was more about strategy. Like before it was sort of like I learned how to do a new thing. I learn how to do a new thing and then I'm going to write a blog about it. But maybe that topic has nothing whatsoever to do with the topic that I wrote about last week or the one that I'm going to write next week. And putting it in an order that made sense, and kind of having like almost series or seasons of posts that kind of build on each other. I started doing more of that, being more strategic about the types of content that I publish and trying to do less of the types of thing that I'm interested in, but that doesn't necessarily, isn't necessarily monetizable for me. So I could write about my standing desk and my walking pad, or like how that's not gonna, it might get me an affiliate sale on Amazon, but it's not gonna make my business money in the long term. It's not a goal of mine to be the expert in that area. So I was just realizing I'm all over the place. I really need to simplify the types of topics that I'm talking about, and I monetized my blog after that too. So I started being more strategic about call to actions. You have a great post on your blog about adding sort of like a ads collection. So I implemented that. That has been a game changer for making it easy to insert ads into my blog posts. And then I just was a lot more strategic in the way that I told people what to do when they were done with the post.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Happy to hear it.
Yeah.
Finally, can you also share with me, if someone's considering right now joining Audience Academy and they're on the fence, what would you say to them about audience building and selling digital products? Worth the effort, not worth the effort? How was the course? What do you think?
Oh, it's totally worth it. I would say do it. Don't think twice about it. It's straightforward. It's comprehensive, but it's simple. So it's not overwhelming, which I super appreciated. It's bingeable. I'm pretty sure I did it either in a weekend or a week. Like just watched all of the videos and then went back and started implementing stuff. Some of it I was even able to implement like immediately, but pretty quickly. But yeah, basically it helped kind of solidify some things that I kind of already suspected, or like things that I'd never thought to do, or it definitely at least doubled my audience within 6 to 12 months of that. Just implementing, and not even like super intentional stuff, just like I'm going to change the way that I do this on a weekly basis. It wasn't like I need to take the course and then I do these things for like 6 months solid and nothing else. It was like, I'm just going to change how I do my routines. And over time, that has been building consistently since then.
I hope Katelyn's story offered you valuable insights on building digital products and how web design can be a brilliant foundation for creating that passive income stream that you've been dreaming about. As Katelyn shared, the key to uncovering those must-have digital products often lies in understanding the needs and challenges of your clients, which is why surveying and connecting with your picture-perfect client or audience is so essential. But to do that effectively, you first need a clear picture of what audience it is that you're looking to serve. So if you and your dream client haven't quite met yet, I have just the thing for you. Click the link below and download my complimentary Ideal Client Avatar workbook that will help you get to know them inside and out so that you can craft a digital product that was truly made for them.